All right, there's no way to sugarcoat the bloop, start over. There's no way to sugarcoat this. All right, your computer is not broken. Your phone, whatever you're watching this on, that's just my voice. I'm recording early here before I go to church. And the Lions have made and been forced to absolutely shuffle this roster. And one of the two players that I was really excited to actually see play, that I was counting on and being like, we can do this, is now out. We are injured as can be going into Sunday Night Football against the Kansas City Chiefs. Man, oh man, every year, just put it on repeat, right? The good news, none of these are like season-ending injuries. We can get these guys back. We can get healthy. We can. But we are going into what is arguably the toughest 4 or 5 game stretch of the season, and we're hurt. We are hurt. So let's see who's downgraded out, and let's see what the Lions are going to do with it. I have some unique takes on it. All right, starting left tackle Taylor Decker, he's out. All right, he's not going to play. Giovanni Manu and defensive back Avonte Maddox are out. In fact, I heard that Giovanni Manu is put on IR. That's kind of devastating. I want this guy to get reps. Like, you just want him to grow. Put him in the fire. Watch him grow. I thought overall he made 3 big mistakes, 2 big mistakes, 1 little mistake. Everything else, he was fine in that game. Fine against Hendrickson, but then there was twice where he didn't even touch him. So those are the things you can learn from. 6 Lions were listed as questionable. They are not in. All right, so what do the Detroit Lions do? That becomes the biggest question. Well, they've made some roster moves. All right, and here they are. You can follow us on Twitter if you want. All right, the Lions announced the following roster moves. They've placed Manu on IR, all right, on reserve/injured. They've waived Kingsley Agaquin and D-line Chris Smith. These 2 guys were regulars on game day inactive list. All right, they weren't playing. All right, they were staying on the practice squad. I never thought Kingsley Agaquin played in a way that showed that he should be the backup center. So that is not terrible, and he might make it back. But they have signed safety Erick Hallett, defensive lineman Quentin Jefferson, and cornerback Nick Whiteside to the active roster. All right? Now, they are doing this because it's not just the other guys that we talked about. It is Avonte Maddox, which I did say. That is a corner/safety. He can play either. All right, and he would play them at a decent level. He's one of those guys that was going to come in, him and Rocky Sin, and they played good football. And when you have 2 safeties that are questionable heading into this game in Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph, you need more safety help. So they bring in Erick Hallett. All right, I am amazed at the amount of injuries in this secondary. Every year, it's the secondary. And I will continue to say it. It's because we ask our defensive backs to do too much. We ask them to do too much. So let's learn who these guys are. First off, let's talk about the offensive line. Okay, let's talk about the offensive line. It's Skipper was he's good. I think he's probable. I think he's going to be good to go. My guess is that Skipper will be our starting left tackle. Devin Cochran, if you remember, we signed him from, I believe it was the Bengals practice squad. We poached him a few weeks ago, and we were saying that, hey, this is one of those things. Jamarco Jones was hurt, put on season-ending IR. This means Giovanni Manu is not ready, and Dan Skipper was hurt, so we needed offensive tackle help. Well, he wasn't good enough to play. Manu played. But now Manu's out, and so we need a backup to Skipper just in case Skipper's not at full health or in case he goes down or re-injures something. So that's what we have. Here's the good news. On the Chiefs side of the ball, they don't have bad edge rushers, all right? They have Dana. They've got a couple of decent guys, but nobody that's a Hendrickson. Nobody that's a Hutchinson. No Bosa's are over there. No... like they don't have one of those guys that are elite level talents. They have guys that could at some point maybe push for a Pro Bowl if they have a crazy year, but they don't have ridiculous edge talent. Now, the one thing that scares me is that Chris Jones, their defensive tackle, just a massive talent, has been often lining up on the outside. So you could get one-on-one matchups. I don't hate Skipper in this one because at least Skipper has size and he has a pretty decent anchor. So Chris Jones doesn't beat you with just speed. He beats you with just sheer strength and power and quickness, especially on the inside. But on the outside, he's not your bendy guy that is going to get around the edge, which is what Hendrickson did to Manu a couple times. Now let's go into the secondary. The secondary is absolutely ravaged. So let's talk about a couple of these guys if you don't know who they are. Nick Whiteside. All right, he's a guy that flashed in the preseason but was absolutely inconsistent. Flashed for looking like he had some skill and some athletic ability, but he was a guy out of Saginaw Valley State. So I, like probably all of you, assumed when they said Nick Whiteside out of Saginaw Valley State, assumed he was a rookie. He's not. He was drafted in 2023. He just hasn't gotten any meaningful playing time. I believe he played like 15 snaps as a rookie. But he's a guy that, like, look, you don't know. It's impossibly hard to understand or to know what's going on. So that's one of those things with him that you just don't know. All right. So, anyways, with that, we're gonna keep going. We're gonna talk about that a little bit later. I want to hit on Hallett. All right, Erick Hallett is a completely different monster. I think, at least. He's a Pitt Panther. He also was drafted in 2023. He also hasn't really had any run. Here's the difference between Whiteside and Hallett. With Whiteside, we think the athletic ability is there. We think he's talented. With Hallett, we know he is. He had a 7.4 RAS, but the only thing missing for him is his size. He's not big. All right. As far as grading as a free safety goes, everything else from his explosion, his speed, and his agility, all were good to great. He's a quick, twitchy athlete. I think that he can be effective when it comes to pass coverage. In fact, when you look back at his stats, you're not going to find a lot of PFF grades on him in the NFL. But when you look back on him in college, his final year, he played well, played a ton of snaps. Where did he play those snaps? He played them in the slot. All right, he played in the box a little bit, but he mostly played in the slot. He played a little bit of corner. He played a very small amount of free safety. So he's either in the slot or he was in the box. So that's what he was doing. All right, and that is kind of what we're looking at this point. So there's no way to say anything other than this is a mishmash of parts. It's not ideal, especially going up against Patrick Mahomes. But, all right, they still have a receiver that has served a suspension. Rice is still suspended. Worthy is healthy, so there's a lot to cover there. But here's the one thing that I am looking forward to. Patrick Mahomes' accuracy, deep balls, still has not come back. Don't allow them to dink and dunk like crazy. Absolutely stop the run, stop the short stuff, keep everything in front of you, and make them beat you deep. And that is how you have a chance to win this game. Make them beat you deep. Come up, tackle well, go from there. I'm a little worried about communication, but at least they've been able to practice this week together. These guys have been injured. There's one new one. Maddox got hurt, but I believe it was in the first practice of the week. So these guys have been practicing together. Not enough time, but we'll see what happens. If we find a way to win this, short on the offensive line and extremely short-handed on the defensive side of things, man, oh man, will that say something about this team. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.